We're going to continue refining the animation for our crow and his little takeoff. And let's review it again here. So as we see, we're starting to shape this animation up. It's looking a little bit better. I'm looking at how he takes off, and it looks like he should stay on the ground a little bit longer, and his liftoff should be a bit more abrupt. It's a little bit too smooth in that transition from ground to air. So let's stop that, and we'll go back to frame 1. I'm going to select the base or the root control for the crow, and let's open that graph editor. And the channel that we want to focus in on here is going to be the Y channel. So I'm going to select that and hit F. And we want this one because this is going to control his vertical lift. And we'll scrub through, and we can see right here, right between frame 13 and 25, that's where he's starting to lift off. I want to keep him down on the ground a bit longer there. So what we'll do is delete this key right here. Now, I could just drag it down and zero it out, but we don't need those extra keys since I have this one here already at 0. So I'll come up into the graph editor and we'll delete this key. Now, when we do this, we do want to make sure that we're in the graph editor and that we have something selected. If I accidentally come back out here and hit delete, I will delete the crow control handle, which is a parent to the entire skeleton, so all of that will get deleted. Now we can undo, but just to be safe, we want to make sure that we are deleting things properly. So back up in the graph editor, we'll select that key and I'll hit delete. We can see interactively there that my crow now pops up a little bit as our curve has changed in the timeline. And let's move out here. Let's go to frame 25 and I'll select our key here and I'm going to hit W and hold shift and let's drag this down to frame 25. Now that's going to keep him on the ground there a little bit longer. I like that a lot better. That looks a bit more realistic. Now we also want to make this be a bit more abrupt. So now I'm going to modify the back end of this animation here, and we have this key here. We don't really need this one either, so I'm just going to delete it, and that will then make that slope in that curve a little bit nicer. Get rid of that. Okay. And now I want to make that takeoff more abrupt. So to make that happen, I'm going to break the tangent. So I have that key selected and I'll choose break tangents. Now I can select this tangent handle here and just drag that up. Now I can also hit play and we can interactively modify those keys. So I can drag this down and really kind of get a feel for how he's taking off. Now, since I'm focusing on a specific area, we could also change that playback range. We can kind of crunch this down so that we're just going to focus in. Then grab the handle. There we go. So we're just going to focus in on the area that has the problem. And let's grab this. I think we'll end up returning it back up there, but that's looking a lot better. Let's see. I like that. So I'm going to leave that right there. And then the last part here, I want to take this and let's not have him ease out like he is at the end of this here. So we're going to change that slope and I'll just choose my auto tangent and we'll direct that slope. Let's go ahead and stop that animation. And so we've clamped that tangent down. So now that is locked to that specific slope there. And that's looking a lot better. I'm going to expand my playback range all the way back out. And I think we only need to make one more adjustment here and then we can be done. And that is back on the wings. It might look a little bit better if he eased into or gradually started flapping his wings instead of all of a sudden he's kind of going at the same speed there. So let's stop that and let's select the joint. Remember, we need that left joint there. We'll frame this up and there is our flapping animation. That's all on the X channel. So I'm going to select that. To alter this animation, we've got a nice tool called the retiming tool. And it's located right here. And we'll click on it. And it gives us a bit of an instruction to use it. And I'm going to move out to this key right here at frame 7. And it tells me to double click in order to add a marker. So we'll do so, and we get our very first marker. And what the markers do is they will keep the animation or the keyframes fixed at that marker position. And it's going to be on the outside of the marker that will stay fixed, but on the inside of the markers, that's where we'll be able to readjust or reposition our animation. So now let's go out to here. And now the interior here, this is the part of the animation that we want to modify. And I want to expand this out and make those wings go a little slower. Again, I'll hit play and we'll grab this marker here and just drag that out. Now notice what's happening. Notice everything to the right. It's moving, but it's not expanding. So we are retaining that animation and we're just scooting everything else down. So let's expand this out. I think we're about right there. Let's just bring this out just a little bit. Let that play. And now we can see that his wings start to flap a little bit slower and then go into full speed once he takes flight. All right, let's bring that in somewhere around right there. I think that can work for us. At any point in time, we can add another marker by double clicking. And again, what is inside of the markers is what's going to stretch or be retimed. So now I'm adding, when I add a marker, I'm basically adding a fixed position there. Now we can add as many of these markers as we want. Of course, if there's no keyframes for it to support, they're not really going to help us out a whole heck of a lot there. And to get rid of any extra markers, we just go down to the bottom and hit the X, and that'll get rid of those markers. Now we can leave this retiming tool on. We don't need to get rid of it even after we retimed it. I can leave it here and we can just close up and my animation is still good.